Hi comic book fans, and welcome to another suddenlycomics.com video. And today I'm going to be showing you my 10 favourite pickups from 2024. They're not necessarily the most expensive, or some of them were the most expensive, but that's not necessarily the case. These are just my 10 favourite pickups for different reasons. Okay, so one of my comic highlights of the year is going up to the Thought Bubble Comic Convention in Harrogate in November, which I did again this year, and I got in free because I'm now 65, and you get in free if you're over 65. It's a good chance to network and meet up with people, and I did. I met up with Wayne of Sacred Comics and also Colin Nolan, and we had a meal together and a good chat. And then after the Thought Bubble convention, shortly after, they ran a charity auction for Colin's nephew who's got terminal brain cancer. And at that I bought a number of lots from Colin and Wayne, and my favourite one is this. It is a copy of this book here, The Devil's Cut. But what's great about it is that it is double signed by Becky Cloonan and Tula Lotay. One's done a skull, the other's done a picture of a woman, and they both signed it. This was donated to them, I believe, by the Travelling Man. But that's a great pickup, double signed, double remarked. I picked this up for a ridiculously cheap price. I think I paid 40 quid in the auction. It's worth a lot more than that. I'll be getting that sent off to CGC for signing and for signature authentication and slabbing. They do a special CGC slab for distillery. Right, second up, on my way back from Thought Bubble, I went to see Darren of Splat Comics because he had got a number of comics for me from earlier in the year when on our Geekly Weekly show. He'd been showing some of his comics that he'd acquired at auction, and as he was going through them we would claim them. So I'd got a whole load of stuff that I'd claimed from him, and I went to pick it up. He lives in the middle of nowhere, somewhere between Goole and Doncaster. Anyway, I found him and I picked a load of stuff up from Darren. And this was my favourite pickup from Darren. This is a bound edition of the House of Mystery horror anthology series, and there are 5 volumes of this, each one containing 10 comics. This is obviously my favourite, number 1, because it contains the first horror anthology. That one there, Joe Orlando takes over as editor, and also of course number 2 is also a big key because it is the first time we see Kane entering the House of Mystery with a great Neil Adams cover there. So basically the first 50 issues of House of Mystery in a bound volume set. Extremely rare. You'll probably never see that again. And also it's associated with one of my colleagues in the comic community. Right, the third one, another story behind this. So I attend the London Comic Mart probably 4 or 5 times a year. Anyway, the first one, it might have been the last one in 2023. This guy comes up to me and he says, I've got an issue 1 of Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. If I bring it in next time, would you be interested? I said, well look, I don't collect Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, but I will pay you, I will buy it to sell, so I would only pay you half fair market value. So anyway, the next time, I think it was the first convention of this year, he brought in Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos number 1. I made him an offer, which was what I thought was half fair market value. He ummed and ahed a bit. I added another 20 quid on, and he sold it to me. And here it is. Now, I've still got this. I haven't sold it. Because then I don't know, online auction, there was some more Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. And I thought, well, I've got one. I also had a number of others that I'd acquired through the years. So now I've started collecting Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, and I've got a pretty good set of Sergeant Fury's Howling Commandos 1 to 50, which I will show off at some time. I call that an accidental collection, but really enjoyed that. Right, as you know, I'm a big fan of attending auctions at auction houses in the UK, and sometimes I attend them, sometimes I do it online. So I have a couple of nice pickups. There's a really nice pickup I got in one of the online auctions. Weird Science Fantasy. This is an original Golden Age EC comic. It's my only original EC comic. Really nice that. And it's a Feldstein cover. Yeah. Right, now, next up, I've got a couple. So one of the things that I did at the end in 2023, I had sent a number of comics off to Heritage for to sell, and they sold. And I had about $5,000 worth of credit at Heritage. And rather than sort of paying to convert all that to dollars into pounds, sending it back to the UK, I thought I'll use that as a little pot to buy comics at Heritage auctions. So I did buy a number of comics at Heritage auctions. I'm going to show you a couple of my favourites, and they are both Fantastic Fours. Ones I never thought I would be able to own. This one, a Fantastic Four number 8. This is in an old CBCS. It's the first appearance of the Puppet Master. I don't like this CBCS slab, and I'm still wondering whether I should take this out of here and resubmit it. Get it pressed and cleaned and resubmit it to CGC. I don't know. It's a 6.0. Don't know. I do not like that CBCS slab. The new CBCS slabs are fine, but I don't like that old one. Right, here is another acquisition from Heritage. This one is Fantastic Four number 11 in a CGC slab. It's origin and first appearance of Impossible Man. So that's two great pickups from Heritage for my PC. Also, I attended an auction. There's an auction house called Eubanks that have, in the last sort of 18 months, have really picked up as a top comic selling auction house in the UK. They're better than some of the others. I've bought quite a lot of comics at Eubanks. In fact, there's a Eubanks auction this Friday that I may or may not attend. Anyway, I actually physically attended one earlier this year, and one of the first lots up was this Fantastic Four Silver Surfer number 1. Now I had a 3.5 of this, and this one is a 5.0. So I upgraded. I went from a 3.5 to a 5.0. I then traded my 3.5 with my mate Alan in Canada for a great comic. Actually, I could have put it in this pile, but I forgot. I traded it for a Black Cat number 1 in a 1.0, I think. So that was great. Right, back to the Heritage stuff. This I acquired at Heritage as well, using the money that I'd got from selling stuff the previous year, and I got this earlier this year. This is probably my favourite pickup of all, because it just looks fantastic. It is Batman 100. I'd actually been after this for quite some time. They're quite hard to find. This is in a 3.5, but it looks much better than the 3.5. I really don't know. I haven't checked up why they graded this 3.5. I mean, it just presents beautifully. I can only assume there's something wrong inside. Oh yes, this tape on the cover. That's it. Yeah, but you can't really see it. Yes, it's down here. And tape does not count as restoration. it just knocks the grade down, but you can hardly see it. So it presents absolutely fantastically. Right, so my last pick, right, two more. That was, here we go. I've also done a bit of collecting of Golden Age comics. Alan has finally got to me, and I have picked up a couple of a reasonable number of Golden Age comics in UK auctions when I see them, and they're at a good price. This one, I just love this cover, and it reminds me of, this is Planet Comics number 55. It's, the artist is Joe Doolan. Now, I have this comic. What I haven't got, one of my best pickups this year financially, was 2 bound volumes of Planet Comics. I think it was about issue, something like issue 48 to, there was about 20 of them in 2 volumes. So it covered this one. It was like 48 to 68 or 48 to 70, something like that. And those 2 volumes, they appeared on a UK online auction. I asked Alan, I said, what are these bound editions of Planet Comics worth? And he said they're worth a lot less than you'd think, because the comics have been trimmed and so on to get them in the book. So I said, well, how much do you think it's worth? He said, well, about $1,200, about $1,500. So I converted that to pounds, £1,200. So I want to pay, I would buy these to sell on. So I said I'll pay £600 maximum. So I bid £500 each on them, because when you put buyer's premium on, that took it to 600, and I just won them both. The other bidders dropped out just before my maximum bid, and I won them both. I then put one of them on eBay at £1,500 and it sold within 12 hours. I then sold the second one to the same buyer, and so I nearly tripled my money on those 2. So in terms of, I haven't got them to show you because they're now with a guy in New York. But there you go, that one reminds me of those 2. So that was definitely my best financial buy and sell, and it was a quick turnaround as well. Did it within a few weeks. Yeah, I'll look forward to a couple more of those in 2025 if I can. Right, final pickup, and this comes back to another auction I went to, and actually attended it. I'd actually been to look at the lots because it was reasonably local to me, about 50 minutes away. And they had a load of really great comics, obviously from a big collector who probably passed on. And I went there and I looked through all the boxes, and there was some stunning stuff. There was a lot of really nice Silver Age Batmans, but there were, before the auction, the price had already gone beyond my sort of limit. But there were 2 or 3 boxes there that really, from the description, you couldn't see what they were. They were sort of like a box of comics. Those are the type of ones I like. And one of the boxes of comics was absolutely stacked with great stuff in absolute minty condition. So I went to attend this auction. Unfortunately, there was 2 other buyers actually in the auction, and one of the other guys bidding, who looked like he slept on the streets. His shoes were held together with gaffer tape, but he was buying everything. He bought all the Batmans. He was outbidding all the pre-bids and anybody who was bidding live. He just waited until everybody finished and then he bid. So I thought, oh, and he'd obviously looked through all the items as well. So when it came up to this box that I was particularly interested in, the auctioneer asked for a bid. I think it was £250, and I was prepared to go to 500 for this. And I bid 260, which took out all the pre-bids and the online bids. And the auctioneer said, sold, bang, banged down his gavel. And the guy who'd been buying everything suddenly shook his head and said, no, I want to bid. And the auctioneer said, tough, you're too late. So I got it at a fantastic price. I have so far had 3 CGC 9.8s from this particular box. And this is one of them as my favourite. I ended up, because there was a load of comics in this box. I paid £2.50 for it. I think there were about 100 comics. So I paid about £2.50 a comic. And they were all like this. This is a Killing Joke #1 first print. And I sent it off to CG, so I paid about £2.50 for this. I sent it off to CGC for grading. It came back a 9.8. And as I said, from that very same box, I have had two other 9.8s. So that was one of my best auction wins this year. Right, I think you've seen my 10 top wins, 10 top comics, 10 top pickups of 2024, which has been a really good year for me. It has been a buyer's market. You know, I'd never have been able to pick up those 2 early Fantastic Fours, you know, during the COVID peak. And I'm sure they're going to pick up again with the Fantastic Four movie coming along. So I've taken the opportunity to get some stuff that I would otherwise not have been able to afford. And I've had some really lucky auction wins, which I hope continues into 2025. So there you are, that's your lot. I hope you've enjoyed this little roundup of my favourite pickups of 2024. That's your lot. See you again soon.